أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن سادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My beloved brothers and sisters, we would like to welcome you to a special edition of Discussing Our Deen. Normally, you have our beloved Sheikh Walid Rifai, Hafidhullah, may Allah bless and protect him, and or Imam Amin Muhammad. May Allah also protect and bless him. But today is a special edition. You got the other two amigos, the other two imams from the Black Imams Roundtable joining our Imam Amin Muhammad because Sheikh Walid he had to take care of some business. So we just filling in these big shoes for him tonight, inshallah. As Samira said, you might want to look at this as the Black Imams Roundtable before the Black Imams Roundtable. Alhamdulillah. So make sure you share the video. Let everybody know that the special edition is going down right now. Alhamdulillah. So I want to discuss something, and uh, my comments are really going to be based. If you want to follow me, is really going to be based in Surah Qasas. Surah Al Qasas is chapter number 28 of the Quran, and it's dealing with the story of Musa, Prophet Moses, alayhi salam, Bani Israel, the children of Israel, the people who Moses was sent to, and Pharaoh, their oppressor. They are spoken about in many places in the Quran. If you count how many times the name of Moses is mentioned, you're going to get a number like 136 or something like that. If you count the number of times Pharaoh is mentioned, his name is mentioned 74 times in the Quran or something like that. This should tell you that what Allah has to say about them is extremely important, and we should pay attention to it. At the same time, knowing that the Quran is not a history book, meaning it's not restricted to history, even though it has history in it, but it's a living miracle. It is a living miracle, and it is benefit for all of us, regardless of what time period that we're living in. In fact, in Surah Yusuf, chapter number 12, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says near the end, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ إِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Indeed, in their stories are lessons for people who reflect. And there, meaning the stories of the prophets and messengers. So in this particular surah, where the story of Musa, Pharaoh, Bani Israel is told, you get a picture of the social structure that Pharaoh created. It mentions, as it is mentioned more than one time in the Quran, how Pharaoh had established a system where they were killing the boys and letting the women live. In this surah, however, he didn't use a form of the word killing, like qatala. He used the form of the word like dhahaba, sacrificing. Yudhabbihu abna'ahum. killing their boys, right? Many times you see in the Quran, he killed their boys. He killed their boys. In this particular ayat or this particular surah, he used the word he sacrificed their boys. When you sacrifice something, that means you are putting it down for a higher purpose. In other words, you are just like it's the same word when we that comes from the word like dabiha. You're sacrificing an animal so that you can eat and get strong and get nutrients, etc. So the boys were sacrificed for, in their minds, at least a higher purpose. And so we mentioned some things, but the one part that I want to concentrate on, if you are following me in the Quran, ayat number 15 through 19. I'll read English. It's talking about when Moses entered the city. He said, and he entered the city at a time of unawareness of his people. In other words, the people in a state of ghafla. Usually that means they're partying, they're drinking, they're partying or whatever. They're not really on guard. And he found there two men fighting. One of his own party, meaning his own people, Bani Israel, and another of his foes, meaning the people of Pharaoh. The man of his own party asked him for help against his foe. So Musa struck him with his fist and killed him. And then Musa said, after he had done that, Innahu aduwwum mudillun mubin. This is of Shaitan's doing. Verily, he is a plain misleading enemy. So Musa had what we used to call in the Jahiliyyah a dead arm. You know that one cat, he could be skinny as I don't know what, but he hit you, he knock you out, right? Musa had that. Ayat number 16 says, he said, my Lord, verily I have wronged myself, so forgive me. He then forgave him. Verily, he is all forgiving, most merciful. Moses said again, my Lord, for that which you have favored me, I will never more be a helper of the mujrimun, the criminals. Ayat number 18. So he became afraid, looking about in the city. In other words, he just killed a person. He killed somebody from the ruling class. He's worried about the repercussions. When behold, the man who had sought his help the day before called for his help again. Moses said to him, indeed, you are a plain misleader. Then, when he decided to seize the man who was the enemy to both of them, the man said, O Musa, is it your intention to kill me as you killed a man yesterday? Your aim is nothing but to become a tyrant in the land and not to be one of those who do right. Subhanallah. Just to help you understand ayat number 19 a little bit. The same troublemaker from Bani Israel, Moses' own people, that was fighting a dude yesterday, Moses hit him and he killed the other guy. He's in the street again fighting someone. Then Moses called him out. Moses checked him. You always getting into some trouble, man. You a troublemaker. So then Moses went to grab the Egyptian. He didn't go to grab his own, the man from Bani Israel. The man from Bani Israel thought that Moses was going to grab him, and he dry snitched. Well, that's more like wet snitching. He wet snitched. So we say dry snitch where you snitch by innuendo or ishara or something like that, right? But he wet snakes. Oh, Moses, you gonna kill me like you killed the guy yesterday? The people in Egypt didn't know who killed that guy yesterday. So when the dude from Bani Israel said that, the Egyptian heard that and went and told Pharaoh, hey, I know who killed the guy yesterday. It was Musa. So that's when Fir'aun sent the people to grab Musa and to kill him. And I mention this because there's a lot of lessons you can pull out of that part of the story. And it also shows you the mindset and the psychology of of people who have been under oppression for so long that they bring trouble upon themselves and they always get into trouble, and then they have an animosity or a selfishness. They don't care who else they drag into their problems, on top of the fact that they snitches, right? I'm saying if you reflect on what we read and you reflect in real time what's happening, you can see this mentality as plain as day. And this is something I feel we don't talk about when we talk about extracting lessons from the story of Musa and Fir'aun. We spend a lot of time talking about how Fir'aun killed the boys and let the women live, but we don't talk about all of these other things that Allah mentions in the Quran. Like this person right here, from Musa's own people, Moses' own people, who you would think he would be on code because their people are living under a state of oppression, especially the men. The men were living under a state of oppression. They went from being killed, every boy born being killed. Just in case a lot of y'all don't know, when Pharaoh first started this, the injunction, the law was kill every boy born from Bani Israel. Everyone, without exception. But then they started running out of slaves. The men got old, and when you get old, you get weak, and you don't have a lot of workers. So they amended their constitution, and they said we're going to kill the boys every other year. So every year, on one year, we're going to kill all the boys from Beni Israel. The next year, we're going to let them live. And the brother of Musa, Harun, alayhi salam, he was born in a year wherein they were not killing boys. And the women were not just, when they said let the women live, a lot of scholars say that female genital mutilation. Who knows what FMG is? Female genital mutilation. I don't need to explain that, do I? Do I? Remember, me said, yeah. Y'all know what female genital mutilation is? Is when they go beyond what is called circumcision and they cut the thing off, or almost off, right? That's going on in certain parts of the world. A lot of scholars say Fir'aun started that. A lot of scholars say Fir'aun started that. And but if you read the history and the stories of the prophets, you find that leaving the women alone doesn't mean just leave them alone. They left them alone because they were doing what is called, what we would call, I forgot the word for it, when you try to destroy genetically, uh, dilute someone's gene pool, well, they won't be a pure race. So, in other words, they were raping the women from Bani Israel. So they weren't only killing boys; they were raping the women. It was like, they was living under a serious situation. And so you would figure that, okay, we live in, we are the targets. We are Bani Israel, and we are being targeted for extermination. You would assume that everybody would be on code and everybody would be looking to safeguard their interests, but that wasn't the case. And so I just wanted to uh, open with that narrative, really to emphasize the importance of being loyal to your people and being loyal to your cause. And you find in this situation, you find a common person on the street, how he put his own personal interests or what in his own, desires above that uh, of his people. And then on the other extreme, you find a rich person from Bani Israel, Karun. who's also mentioned later on in this surah. Qarun, he didn't care nothing about his people either. He's down with Fir'aun, and he's using his wealth and his power and his influence to support not his own people, but Bani Israel. I mean, not Bani Israel, but Fir'aun and his people. And so, again, I'm not want to talk too long. I already talked too long, so I'm going to pass it off. But we have to become people. We have to extract lessons that are right there in the Quran for us to see. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is telling us these stories so that we won't be like them. And the sad thing about it is, too many of us are like that dude in the street, always getting into something, ready to hurt the whole entire group just because they want to be misfits and stuff like that. And we can't be like that. Alhamdulillah. Next up,
Yo, I believe that's me.
Imam Fahim, get on the mic for the symphony.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. I'd like to welcome you all tonight to this class. We're filling in for Sheikh Walid Al-Rifai. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve him. So, yeah, you got to excuse me. I'm really not feeling too well, but, we were talking about loyalty. My amigos call on me, good, bad, or indifferent. We got to respond. So that's how we support each other. So, but thank you all for tuning in with us tonight, inshallah ta'ala. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this effort from us. And hopefully we're a worthy replacement for our Sheikh, inshallah, just to cover him while he had to take care of some issues. And so we kind of got off on talking about loyalty. Something that's very important because we are, all of us are sticklers about it, being loyal to each other, and especially on this online platform. Really, because there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of information. There's certainly a lot of great personalities and fascinating personalities that you can listen to. And, but we're talking about family, we're talking about loyalty. We're talking about commitment to each other, inshallah ta'ala. And I think we need to remind ourselves of it, because, seeing things online and seeing, certain instances, sometimes it just, makes you wonder, and, for us, this is more than just, this is more than just a platform where we just talking, somebody said this morning on the scattered thoughts, they said something after Imam Amin was, kind of talking about his, what his goal is, and our goal as well. Someone has said, it's history in the making of some of the things that we're trying to do, and provide an alternative to some of the things that are out there, and really uplift the flag of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Because a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with today, we have to counter a lot of the stuff that's going on, especially in our area. We're surrounded by, Wahhabis and hardcore Salafis and, all types of stuff, and, we're dealing with regular people in our communities. We got to go and deal with people who are caught between, certain ideologies, people who are scared to stand up, people who are scared to, raise a voice or take a position and be firm on it, and you got people going back and forth, whispering here and whispering there, having like double alliances. And one of the things that I really despise is when people have two faces. Having two faces is really horrible, and it's sickening, and this online culture has kind of, spawned that for a lot of people where, they're not really who they say they are. People have an option to hide behind keyboards. People have an option to not even reveal their faces. And it's called Facebook, it's called Facebook. Your face, the face is the main part of it, and sometimes it just makes you want to give up. But it is a medium that we can use to connect with people, and that we have used to build this family that we have. And we just want to make sure that we're protecting our brand and making sure that everyone is with us, because if we don't have loyalty and consistency, we don't have anything, and it's very important for that, and you all know that we love you, we appreciate you, tuning in. And so since I'm always I'm still in Black Imams roundtable mode. So this is the BIRT before the BIRT. So loaves of bread are baked every day, B. So flash that thing, and ain't no reason why you can't donate no money tonight. So flash that link across, Imam. And let's get that bread to baking. Inshallah. You know, we bake loaves of bread every day, B. So alhamdulillah, drop a little something, inshallah, to keep us going. And yeah, but I have to say that I'm really kind of it's amazing the platform that we've used, and the family that we built, and the consistency that we have from everyone is really it's I love it, So we just got to keep this going, inshallah ta'ala, But loyalty is very, very important, and just I had a meeting with well, I didn't make it yesterday, but my staff had like a little meeting getting prepared for Ramadan. And one of the things, the feedback that I got is that this difficulty in coming out of this pandemic and really getting people to connect again, getting people to come back to the masjid, and during this pandemic, a lot of people, they lost their way. A lot of people, have expressed that, they're kind of, discontented with just dealing with people in public now. People are still leery about being in public places and being around, with the threat of COVID and stuff like that. And it just made me realize how much more of an effort we got to put forth to stay connected, because, we've many people have become disconnected and become quite comfortable and being disengaged from their communities, and it's a lot of effort to go after people and make sure they're good, and checking up on each other and calling and visiting. Some of these things have been lost to a certain extent. And so we got to work harder to keep it and maintain it and try to revise it, inshallah. People isolating themselves when they don't have to. And, so we hope that this will spread amongst our family, that we go after people, who have just become isolated and staying away. And, because we're in some very troubling times, we're in some very, times where, we're getting closer to the hour. That's always my answer. Whenever you hear this stuff that, upsets you or disturbs you, it's just like, it's very, it can get you down, but at the same time, we understand we're getting close to the hour. So it's going to be a lot of stuff that will, make us sad. So we just got to keep pushing. And then we need as many people as possible on board and on deck to help us keep moving forward, inshallah, because we have a big job as, a collective to move forward together, inshallah. And we do hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to reward us and give us the tawfiq that we need to move forward. All right, so I think this show is like an hour, and I think about an hour.
Depending if we do our normally an hour, but if we do our normal, it can be extended.
Okay. All right. Well, as I said, I didn't really have too much, but I was summoned to be here, so that's what I did. So, and again, thank you all for being here, mashallah. We really, really appreciate it. It means so much to see familiar names and faces all the time, on the different platforms that we have. It really means a lot. and it it gives us a feeling, as imams and leaders, and that you do stuff and you wonder if it's even impacting people, because sometimes, well, a lot of times you don't get the response that you would normally expect. You don't get the support. So to see this consistent effort from everybody is really appreciated, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you all and raise your rank. I mean, all right, so I'll stop there and let Otis take over.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I wanted to really, for this time that I have, was to prepare us for tomorrow night's roundtable, which is going to be about reevaluating Sunni Islam. I think, to me, this is one of the most important roundtables that we have had, and I think is essential really for my work, from my side, and the other imams as well, but particularly my biggest priority in all of the things I do is to establish, to the best of our ability, a legacy of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah in our communities, and to be clear on what is Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and we can say in that meaning Sunni Islam. So when we say Sunni, what we mean is Ahl Sunnah, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And I think the biggest problem that we have in Islam is that as a collective people, as a collective group, we've been deprived of the reality of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And I think that it is time that we change the direction of the discourse in our communities. Some people, because of not learning, that's the only reason. I don't think that anyone who struggles with these issues in general, I don't think it's because they obstinate or they are just rebels. I think they just don't know. And there is an old saying in Arabic that faqidu shay la yu'ti, the one who doesn't have a thing can't give it, right? So if a person doesn't know, you can't expect them to act as if they know. They don't know. And I think several things that Islamically we should acquire that would help us, right? Number one is we got to get out of the habit of being afraid or feeling ashamed in saying, I don't know, right? Let us all take one moment, they say that moment of silence. Let's take a brief moment and we can put it in, all of us, and I'll be with you, just all of us for one quick second. Help ourselves, right? Put I don't know. It's very easy. It doesn't hurt. Right? I don't know. It's not a crime, right? All of us, let us just say it. I don't know. If you want to be fancy, some of you want to be fancy, la adri, la a'lam, Allahu a'lam. Whatever way you got to say it, say it. I don't know. It's fine. But I think that's one of the biggest problems we have, because we've been told if you don't know, that equates to you being stupid, and that's not true. So we've been taught, don't say you don't know, right? Because people think you're stupid. No, you just don't know. You got to learn. It's fine, right? It is a part of the religion to say, I don't know in its proper place. So if we start there, it is easy for us to just learn and further our education, especially our Islamic education. It's okay, you don't know. And you're not expected to know when you've never learned, right? So, with that point, if we all admit that we don't know, and in reality, we don't know, that's true. That's not a lie. That's not putting you down. We don't know. We have to learn. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the solution for our condition. And we learned it this morning, and I want it to stick in our mind. Allah said in the Quran, in Surah number 16, verse 43. In that verse, Allah said in a section of that verse, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people, and that's a command. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Right? Allah said, and ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. Ask the people of the remembrance, which are the people of knowledge, if you don't know. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that when we don't know, we do have the obligation to ask those who do know, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave information. As Allah mentioned in the Quran, that Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. Allah knows and you don't, right? So that is not a crime. It's okay. Then Allah distinguished people further, and this is in Surah number 39, verse number 9, if I am not mistaken. Surah 39, verse number 9, Allah says, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Say, that's a command. قُلْ يا Muhammad. Say, O Muhammad, هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are those who know equal to those who do not know? Which is obvious. No, those who know are at a higher degree than those who do not know. So from the Quran, there is an imperative for the one who doesn't know to ask the one who does know. And there is a distinction between those who know and those who don't know. So this separation of people is from the Quran. And the Quran is, as Allah said, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. It is the book, there's no doubt in it. So if Allah said there are going to be people who know and people who don't know, then we should figure which class we are in and act accordingly, right? With that being said, there is the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that is related by Imam Abu Dawood in his Sunan, in the book Sunan Abi Dawood, that some of the companions, they were on a journey. And one of the men, he got a cut in his head, a wound, and it was a cut in his head. And at night, he became in a state of major ritual impurity, right? He became junub. And when he woke up, he was defiled, and it was a cold night, right? A cold night. So he went to some of his companions, and they were companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said to them, I have this cut, and I have this condition. I am in a state of major ritual impurity. should I take a ghusl, a purgatory bath, or should I make a tayammum? They told him, take a ghusl. You must take a ghusl, which apparently is the rule. When you're Janud, make ghusl, right? That's it. He did that. That cold water got in that wound, it got infected, and he died. When they got back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet censored them with the most severe censoring you can imagine. I want you to put yourself in this position. They come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This companion is dead. One of them, they gave the judgment in this case, and they weren't the people of knowledge among the companions. They were ordinary companions. They weren't the people of knowledge. When they went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet was informed. Look what he said. Qataluhu qatalahumullah. Listen to that. Qatuluhu qatalahumullah. They killed him. May Allah kill them. Wow. Let's think about that. Imagine you're in the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So don't just look at those words. He's upset with them. He's totally displeased with that action. To the extent he said they killed him. May Allah kill them. And then look what he followed it with. Why didn't they ask if they didn't know? Verily, the cure for ignorance is asking questions. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said to them. When they told him about this case, he said they killed him. May Allah kill them. Why didn't they ask if they didn't know? Verily, the cure for ignorance is questions. After hearing these verses in the Quran and this particular hadith, and there are others that have a severe meaning as well, but this one is so severe, the response of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, shouldn't that tell us to pump our brakes? Like, shouldn't that be a clear indication, yo, pump your brakes? For those who don't know ghetto vernacular, that means stay in your lane. Oops, all right. Keep your position, your status, right? For us, we need to accept this matter and then act accordingly. Right? So a lot of times we, out of not knowing, do what? We rush into things that could be extremely dangerous. Whether we kill people in the dunya or we kill their akhirah with not knowing, it's still a real bad situation. So when we look at Sunni Islam, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, it is important that we know the structure of Ahl Sunnah, right? And when we're talking about reevaluating, because a lot of times what we've been exposed to as Sunni Islam is not Sunni Islam at all. A lot of times what we've been exposed to as Sunni Islam is not Sunni Islam at all. So since that's the case, there is a need for reevaluating our terms and definitions. I would like us to start having standards by which we weigh things, right? Have standards by which we weigh things, right? And once we get those standards, let us act accordingly, right? If we look at the life of Imam al-Bukhari, and I'm talking about us as African Americans or converts, most of us, even those who are second generation, our parents or our grandparents were converts, right, to Islam. So most of us are not more than 2 generations, definitely not 3, of people, 3 generations, like maybe your great-great-grandfather or grandmother was a Muslim, and then, but most of us 2 or 3 generations. If you look at Imam al-Bukhari, his great-grandfather was not a Muslim, right? It was his grandfather who embraced Islam, right? Right? And I was thinking about this, right? So from non-Muslim, Persian, Zoroastrians, right, Majus, to 2 generations, a top scholar that the Muslim nation has considered his work the most authentic book after the Book of Allah. If you think about this, 2 generations. So you're talking about your great-grandfather wasn't even a Muslim. Then your grandfather becomes a Muslim. Then your father, and then you. And you become the greatest scholar of the prophetic tradition that is known in this ummah. And your book becomes the most authentic book after the Book of Allah. So think about that. Now you must ask the question. Imam al-Bukhari was a scholar, his father was a scholar, and his grandfather was a convert, right? So in 2 generations, look what they produced. So, you know, the Majus, they're fire worshippers, right? So in the Mushrikun. And in 2 generations, they produce great scholars. Now, when you think of al-Bukhari, Bukhari himself, Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah, he had over 1,000 sheikhs. He was dedicated to knowledge, right? And some of the sheikhs of his were from his area, who were also newly recent converts to Islam, right? After only a few generations. And they produced a group of scholars. Now, I want to ask you a question. Is that impossible for Black people? That's a question. Is that impossible for Black people? Y'all welcome to jump in, fellow imams.
It's definitely not impossible.
Right? Okay. Imam Fahim, what you think?
No can do.
You said no can do?
No, we can't do it.
Okay. So the question is 2 questions. Imam Naim, you said not impossible. And Imam Fahim, you said no can do. We can't do it. Why? Who want to go first? Well, let's go to Imam Fahim. You said we can't do it. Why?
Well, we can't do it because we haven't done it. I don't really got no excuse. I'm just being, the center.
We haven't done it, right?
Yeah.
So we can't do it because we haven't done it.
Yeah.
Okay. Imam Naim, and I agree with you. So I agree in this sense. If we keep doing what we've been doing, you're right, it's impossible. If we keep doing what we've done, you're right, it'll never happen. But Imam Naim, you said it is possible. How?
It's possible because number one, we have to uh, put in the work. In other words, when it seems like when we, as Muslims, we lower the standards, don't have standards, so there's no bar to get up to. The bar, what I think is a scholar, is different from what he thinks is a scholar, and what he thinks is a scholar is different than what both of us think a scholar is, right? And so, and in this conversation, nobody says, "Hey, Islamically, what have our scholars said or defined as a scholar?" Right? Nobody in that conversation stops and says that, and nobody lays down the parameters. Okay, you have levels of scholarship, right? And they have titles and ranks, and you have to learn X, Y, and Z to achieve each rank. We don't ever get to that part of the conversation. We just argue about who's a scholar, who's not a scholar, or there's no scholars in America, or there is scholars in America. But at no point in the conversation do we say, what is a scholar Islamically, right? I think once that is known, once that is ma'loom, then, okay, now you have a target that you're shooting at. You know what you have to learn. You know the order in which you must learn subjects so that you can achieve it. It's just like with anything else in the black community. Well, a lot of us don't know how to make money because we haven't been shown the blueprint, or we haven't been shown how. Or as Abdurrahman ibn Auf said to Sa'd ibn Rabia, Ainu Sukuka, where's the marketplace, right? We haven't been shown the marketplace. But when you show us how to do something, we'll do it. It's just like, I'll give you another parable. It's just like anybody that's working out or taking care of their body. If you bench pressing and you don't never put no weight on the bar, right? You're not going to get strong. You're just going to be sitting there all day doing this. But if you gradually start putting plates on the bar, you're going to get stronger, and then you're going to be able to bench press the whole rack eventually. But with us, we don't, everybody has a, we all over the place. We got a 45 plate on this side, a 35-pound plate on this side, and we working out like we all like this. We all over the place. And that's how we are with regards to scholarship and stuff like that. So we could do it. We just got to know what it is first. We keep putting the cart before the horse and arguing about something without even knowing the proper definitions of that thing and what it takes to make that thing. So we can do it.
So the whole discussion that we are having in the Scattered Thoughts Post-Fajr Reflection in the book Al Madhabiyya, tomorrow night's discussion is going to be approaching this matter, right? When you're looking at Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah, what you would have discovered is that around him were people who had a definition of a scholar. And they made models, they developed models of individuals that represent what he said, right? I mean, what they wanted to see. And a lot of times when we talk about these miraculous memories of these scholars, we forget that around them were people like that. They had that environment. So we read the story of Sayyidina Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah, when he came to a town and they mixed up they had 100 hadith, and they had 10 scholars, each give him 10 hadith, but they mixed the asanid with the hadith. So they put one chain with this hadith and another chain with another hadith, 100 hadith like that. So 10 came and recited 10 hadith with the mixed hadith and the chain of narrators, then another 10, then another one, to 10 came. So that was 100. He listened to all of them, and then he put them all back together properly. And along with the way they said it in the first time, right? Which showed his phenomenal skill. But you forgetting sometimes that those people around him, they had the skill to know how to test somebody, to see if he was truly a scholar, right? For us, we don't have that standard, and with the point that both of y'all made is true. And what we should be striving for is to, number one, have that standard. Whatever that standard is going to be a raising of the bar, right? It's going to be an extreme raising of the bar, right? And the whole point of talking about nation building is we're never going to be respected as a nation on the international scene, even on the national scene as a people, until we raise the bar. Because everyone else has a bar that's raised. In our community, that bar is lowered. You see my point? Let me give you an example, evidence of that. If you go all around the Desi communities, Pakistani communities, all around the country, even into Canada, what will you find? And mostly all Desi communities, you're going to find certain standards for Islamic learning. What do they usually represent? That's how much we're talking. It's dialogue, discussing our deen.
Hanifi fiqh, Darul Ulum.
Right? And you've noticed that too, right, Imam Fahim? Now, in those Darul Ulums, no matter which group you in, whether it's, they call it another name, whether it is their Braillery and Deal Bandy fight, we ain't into that. But all of them have their form of the same thing, right or wrong, right? They have their form. They differ. They disagree. They argue. But there is a form for each of them by which they establish what? A standard, right? And what do you know usually that with them, when they're in that, what is the first thing they all usually working on?
Mufti.
Mufti, memorizing the Quran. And then they have a standard. So, and if you go anywhere around the world.
I'm sorry, Mufti Saab.
Mufti Saab, yeah. If you go any round around the world, you're going to have that standard. So they're going to have memorizing the Quran. That's a standard for them. If they don't do nothing else, the kid, they want them to memorize the Quran. Then they're going to go to this. Then they're going to study this. And they're going to study this. And then at the end, they're going to do this, right? That's a standard. Now, all around the world, you can go anywhere, there is a standard. We have to develop a standard. Whether it looks like the standard of anyone else, there still has to be a standard. And it can't be an inferior standard when you get on the international playing field. So you can't just say, oh, we black, and for us, we can lower the bar. No, there's a standard that must go across the world. Whether you black, green, or purple, doesn't make a difference. You need to meet this standard. Do you understand my point? And I think for us, that has never been established in our communities. And it's our job to start to push that narrative. Even if we, now here's the real challenge for our egos, even if we don't meet the standard, right? Even if we don't meet the standard, our egos can't let us prevent the standard from being established. That's one of our problems. So even our elders sometimes have fallen into a lower standard, have accepted it, and then forced it unintentionally, I would say, to be the standard of everybody coming after them. So that's why we would find decades of a low standard, right? We have to fix that. So for instance, you'll have a person and who says, I'm Shafi'i. Let's start with me first, right? And then you ask them, okay, what did you study in Shafi'i fiqh? He may know a little bit of tahara, know a little bit of salah, and maybe some fasting. And if he made umrah, maybe some surface umrah stuff. He knows nothing about Shafi'i fiqh, right? Likewise, in the Hanafi or Malikis, you see my point? And that's a lot of us. So this is a standard. So you figure it like this, and I like to keep us humble, all of us, right? We know we're not there, but we'll let that remain like that, right? No, I'm not there, but you're gonna be there, right? No, all I learned is the basic, uh summarized book. But you got to learn more for your children or for your, you follow my point? And this is what we're trying to get at as far as education, raising that bar. Because I'm telling you, y'all know me, I'm around others often, right? Imam Naim, you was with us at the Molid, right? At the, not Molid, but it was a Molid, but Al-Isra wal Mi'raj celebration, right? Did you notice the panel of the teachers? You know, all of them had major studies. All of them. I was the only one sitting there without a major degree. I'm just serious. If you look, everybody that was up there, PhDs, bachelors, graduates, they had a standard in their communities. And all of them was supported in their communities, all of them, right? And all of them, when they came back from their studies, they had an established teaching post ready for them, some salary ready. All of them had that established. Think about that. And you saw the panel, right? All of them had that standard, right? For us, we have to establish such a standard. I'm not saying it got to be exactly identical to theirs, but it needs to be equivalent, right? It needs to be equivalent in our education system. One of the things we always complain about in the Black community, and please put this up, everyone, so whoever's the fast typer, the same issues Black people got, the same issues Black people have, Black Muslims have. Put that up. The same issues Black people have, Black Muslims have. Right? This is a very, could everyone share this? I mean, put it up. Because I like visual, so we all on the same page. The same issues Black people have, Black Muslims have. Right?
Hey, wait a minute. So you mean our Islam don't exempt us from Black issues?
Nope.
That means I'm still Black, right?
And in fact, it intensifies your issues because now you went to sleep thinking your Islam saved you from your Blackness, right?
Oh man, I thought I had an escape hatch. Islam.
Now,
Get out of my Black.
What was one of the things that we fought for as Black people in our communities in terms of education? What was one of the major struggles of the Black community when it came to education? Still to this day, it's a fight in certain areas. What was it? Our educators. What was the thing that Black people fought in terms of education? We share.
They have the right to quality education.
Bingo. And that was a major issue, right? A major issue. And still now that school districts, where it's predominantly Black school districts, are underfunded, the quality of teachers are lower, the standards are lower, right? And when they had this No Child Left Behind, we were the ones that suffered from it the most as a result of it. Is this facts? We're talking facts, right? Is this facts? Now, and Islam, when we looked, are our educational systems in the Black community, Islamic educational systems, equal to the educational systems of other communities? Let's be honest. Are they equal? No, at all. Access of information, is it equal? No. Access to literature and books and teachers, is it equal? No. So the same issue we were fighting as Black people, we're still struggling with the issue as Black Muslims. And right? And let me ask you a question, right? What is the first word that was revealed to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran? We talking, so I'm not just talking, we talking.
Iqra, read.
Read. Okay. So reading, you usually have what? A written word, right? A document, material, right? Go in the average Black library, Black masjid. What the library look like? The average Black masjid, what the library look like?
What library?
But we're told to read. Look at our libraries. In the average Black masjid, that's a problem, isn't it? Even if they all Wahhabi and Salafi books, even if that's the case, what that library look like? And that's abundance available of Wahhabi, Salafi books. But what the library in the Black masjid look like?
Well, I'd say this too, man. Niggas steal books.
That's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say. English translation of Fiqh Sunnah with volume 3 missing. English translation of Sahih Bukhari with volume 6 and volume 2 missing.
Man, I bought the Riyadh Salihin from Masjid Muhammad, man. Volume 1 is missing.
Right. So my point is, everything, now listen, if that's the case, that runs diametrically opposed to the Quranic imperative, read. We not even have nothing to read.
Then it's still the books and still don't read them. Damn.
Now, we're just talking about in general. Now, we're talking in general. Now, we didn't go to standard. We're just talking in general. If I go to standard, we're Shafi'is, me and Imam Fahim. You are Maliki, right? Go to our communities in Al-Fiqh. If we take a curriculum of Shafi'i or Hanafi or Maliki books, and we put it in the same masjids where we are, and we saying we're Shafi'i or Hanafi, what does that curriculum look like? Worse, right? If we be honest, right? So you're talking about a lack of access to something that you're commanded in the Quran in any Islamic field of study. I don't care what it is. You can't even really study. So my point is that standard is not acceptable, right? And that's what we have to overcome. Because so long as that is our standard, we'll never be respected by others who have a much higher standard. You follow my point? It won't never be equal. And it ain't because of racism. That may be a portion of it. But if you can't meet the standard, you can't do it. So that is a legitimate, even if it is a false pretense to exclude you. You don't qualify. It ain't just because you black and you don't have access. and you don't have the qualifications, and you don't have the knowledge. You see my point? So automatically, they say we should be in charge. It's game, but it's sad. But how many have seen, and Imam Fahim described it on the Black Imams Roundtable, where they just walk in, automatically, I'm in charge. Why? Because they could just look around your library and see you can't know nothing. You don't even have anything in here. I'm in charge. I should be the leader, right? Did I ever tell you a story about the Sheikh al-Hadith that came to Masjid Muhammad?
Yeah, I remember it, but I want you to tell it again, though.
Yeah, you told us numerous times, but go run it back.
So we're in the masjid. So we're in the masjid. So these young Daisy kids from the Darul Uloom, they come in strutting. They were strutting, boy. They bring this mufti and muhaddith, right? Scholar of hadith, Sheikh al-Hadith. Sahib, yeah. Right? So he walk in now, and I'm sitting there. We're sitting down just chilling. And they walk in, and it was like an interest, like we coming in and we're going to take over the masjid. And they say, where is Imam and me? We have a scholar of hadith here. I said, oh, really? Scholar of hadith? Yeah, he's Sheikh al-Hadith. And I said, you Sheikh al-Hadith? He said, yes, I'm Sheikh al-Hadith. He said it. I was shocked. He said he's Sheikh al-Hadith. Automatically, he assumed in his mind, these blacks can't know nothing about hadith, right? But at that time, my library was hidden, right? So you didn't see it. And so I said, really? Like you Sheikh al-Hadith? He was like, yeah. I said, really? I said, can you tell me the first hadith in the Bukhari with his chains of narration? His eyes were like this. I said, just the first hadith with his chain of narration from Imam al-Bukhari to the Prophet ﷺ and the narration. He looked at me like he saw a ghost.
It was a big rat.
He said, I said, go ahead, I'm listening. He said, I don't know. I said, what kind of Sheikh al-Hadith are you? So then I related the hadith, what's his chain of narration to him. And he looks at me like, I said, so maybe you should get in the ranks and pray behind us.
Hey, I read Issa's comment, take us to the head of the Negroes at once. I read that in James Earl Jones' voice.
Me too.
Take us to the head of the Negroes at once.
But and it wasn't trying to embarrass him.
If you're really a sheikh, I'll follow you.
Right. But I wasn't trying to embarrass him. But it was the point that he walked in the masjid and they had like an entourage, like, we're coming to take over. We're coming to take over. Right? And he wasn't, this should have been the easiest test in the world. Right? For anyone who studies hadith, that was like easy, no problem. 100, right? Easy, right? Because let me show you how easy that is. Anyone who studies hadith, the scholars of hadith, they make the first easy way to study hadith is they make books called al-awail, right? Al-awail hadithiyya, right? Which these books take the first hadith in every book. So you have like 40 books of hadith, and your sheikh would read that to you, and it will have the chain of narration, and then he would give you the rest of the hadiths by ijazah. So every student of hadith who's like a real student is going to do that. It's an easy way to take a sanid of books of hadith. So everyone who's a real student of hadith is going to have that like first offhand. It's the easiest way So I'm like, that should have been an easy thing for him. And there are different books like that, right? That would have been easy. So, and then you're talking about the main book in Hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari, which should have been easy. I mean, if you miss other, maybe you miss Abu Dawood or Tirmidhi and Nasai, Ibn Majah, maybe even Muslim. But no way you should have missed al-Bukhari, which is probably the most famous hadith among the hadith that people would know, right? Verily, actions are by intention. And you trying to come to our community and tell us you Sheikh al-Hadith. My point was with that is that's because they don't even see us with a standard, right? And it is shocking that a black man or in the black community that they would have people who would recognize these things, right? And my thing is we should make that a standard all around our communities, right? Where there are people that are like that, and that's a standard, right? But if we don't make these standards, right, and we don't raise the bar, then we're going to be subject to the same arguments we have all the time. Hey, y'all want to have some fun real quick? Can I have a little bit of fun? Somebody told me to stop joking so much. You read that, Imam Naeem?
Riyadh Salihin is really the chain we need in Hadith. That's the one.
Hey, please stick to Tasawwuf. hey, you guys, stick to Tasawwuf. No, I got to give Nail something. He's been all night waiting for me to hit him up.
Hey, people keep telling me about this one person, right? It's like, Sheikh so and so. I'm like, he's supposed to be Maliki, right? When you think Maliki fiqh level 1, the first book that's going to pop to your mind is Akhdari, right? This guy don't know Akhdari, much less memorized it, right? Giving all types of fiqh rulings just contrary, just all over the place, right? Sheikh Success. Why you keep calling him Sheikh? You don't even know Akhdari. And I'm saying that to say because we don't have standards and we talking about Deen and you really believe this person's a Sheikh, he's gonna lead you astray. And this person is doing that, actively doing that. He's a Sheikh. Sheikh of what?
So no, but I'm saying, and listen, and we're all equal in that, right? So it's not a big I, a little you. We're all equal. And that's why we have to raise the standard, right? We're all equal. We all falling short, but we can't stay like that. And use the example of Imam al-Bukhari, which is a high standard. I'm not saying we're all going to be like al-Bukhari, but there should be a normative. What's that? Normative? Come on, supererogatory. Come on, Imam Naeem, hook me up.
You said it, normative.
It's normative? Okay.
Yeah.
There should be a normative practice among us. Educational levels, sequence of learning, stages, right? We should. And no one should feel comfortable bypassing those standards. I mean, you don't have to have them. And that doesn't mean you can't help. That doesn't mean you can't teach. You could be one who just train the people who get in that standard. Help them review, watch. You sit there with the book while they review. You can have a role. But the standard must exist. If you follow, is my point here? Y'all know this ain't post-Fajr reflections or scattered thoughts. But is my point clear?
Post-Maghrib reflections.
Yeah, post-Maghrib reflections. And that's what we're calling for. So tomorrow, Sheikh Abdul Karim is going to expound on that with more details, right? And that's all we asking, right? Because if we don't know, we're going to say we don't know, and that's fine. Now, what do we need to learn, right? And I think that's important because we got to think, okay, why did I say that about Riyadh al-Salihin? All right, let me explain. Y'all ready? Hadith lesson real quick. Riyadh al-Salihin is not a source book of hadith. It is a book that is collected, that is a compilation of hadith from source books. So the book Riyadh al-Salihin in and of itself is not an original book. It is taken from the other books of hadith. So your knowledge of hadith is going to not go to Riyadh al-Salihin. That is like a primer to get you used to hadith. It doesn't have chains of narration. It's not the source of where we authenticate hadith. You understand my point? So it's for just to get you to practice some different aspects and make it easy for you, right? But when we're talking about learning, we're going to have to go back to original sources, right?
I think there's a lot of confusion going on. I don't think that question was to you, Imam. I think it was from Abdul Kabir
To
to
not
Nile. And then Nigeria said plagiarism. So I think she misunderstood what you just said, I think.
Yeah, they all misunderstood, which is the point. Nail need to say, I don't know. Do you understand my point? So what I'm saying is that Riyadh al-Salihin, a book like that, is very excellent. Every one of us should have it. I agree, no doubt. But when we're talking about hadith knowledge, that's not when we're talking about learning the hadith and chains of narration. We're gonna go beyond that to original sources. But for just us reading in our daily practice, it is the best book for us to have. Just in our daily, which is what Nail is talking about. I know, Nail, but I gotta mess with you. I gotta make you feel comfortable. Welcome to the pre-Black Imams Roundtable, where we just layeth the smacketh downeth on your candy. No, we just having fun. Go ahead. All right, I'm good. I'm done. I think my point is established.
Can you find Akil Fahad's comment where he mentioned scholar in English and versus
that was on Facebook.
Yeah. No, he made a comment here in his thread.
Where? Show me.
I can't see it now.
Hey, Akil, put your comment back up. I know you're working for Mr. Charlie. See, a great historian should not be working for Mr. Charlie. We should have you employed researching for the Black Imams Roundtable. Please give up some cheese so Akil Fahad doesn't have to work for Mr. Charlie. He can work for his community.
My son works.
I see one about the community. Where you at, Akil? Where your comment, man?
I'm still scrolling. Maybe I can. I found it. I'm gonna paste it. Copy.
Oh, here you go.
Yeah.
Good. Go ahead, Imam Naeem.
In plain English, scholar is a learned person. Sunni Muslims have different titles at different levels. Then these Arabic different titles, terms at different levels should be introduced to the people, just as Salat, Wudu, Fard, Amir, Imam, Wazir, etc.
All right, say that again. I'm sorry, I got distracted.
He basically saying that in the same way, we introduce other concepts from Islam or Arabic sources, we should do the same thing with regards to levels of scholarship. Because he's saying in English, scholar is just a learned person.
Right, but that's what I'm telling them. But you got to have a standard, right?
I think he's saying that we need to introduce these standards to our people because a lot of we don't know these standards.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. right? So when we say scholar, like I told this morning, when I'm talking about a scholar, I'm talking about someone's at the level of ijtihad. That's what I'm talking about. In the various ranks among the madhahib. I'm talking about that. I'm not talking about a smart person or an intelligent person or a learned layman, right? Or an advanced student of knowledge. I'm not talking about that. I didn't say there wasn't advanced students of knowledge whom we may consider scholars in our own terminology because they're smarter than most of us. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what we must. But see, here's the thing: the standard is already there. We just got to raise the. It's like we don't got to. They say how they say that we don't got to recreate the wheel. All in every madhab, the standard is there. Why we got to be different? For
I
what?
think our people don't know the will. They don't even know we got a will.
That's what I mean. So people say to me, why are you going hard against Wahhabis and Salafi? Because they're destroying the standard, right? That's how we got in this mess from Wahhabi and Salafis, right? That's how we got here. Now, in order to get out of it, we're going to have to go back to traditional Islam, period. And the standard is there, right? Let me give you a standard quick. A brother put it, and I liked it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It was beautiful. And he's from our community. Atlantic City dudes be going hard. Not joking. Right? He's Maliki from Atlantic City. Right? Where he put it? I'm set tripping. Where that statement at? Let me see if I can find it real quick. Man, I got so many daggone. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, as a quick note, you know, the Wahhabis was able to pull it off because they had a lot of money to spend too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, man. Tell them to donate for me, man.
Yeah, so let's get that bread up. We bake loaves every day, B.
We bake loaves every day. What the heck does that mean, man? We bake loaves every day. I'm trying to find a statement. I'm sorry. Please be patient with me. Y'all can fill in real quick.
I thought you was looking for something.
What's a white or black thing? I am, but y'all can fill in. What's a white or black thing? I don't know what he means by that.
Me neither. I missed
What
that.
do you mean by that?
He was talking about moving to Atlantic City. Was that a good idea?
No, because I want to be honest with y'all because a lot of people think this, and I don't want nobody to be mad at me, right? I got Brown Man mad at me now because of this. Listen, Atlantic City doesn't reflect what you hear on Scattered Thoughts and Post Fuzzy Reflection. We're trying to build a standard. We're not there, right? So I don't want you all migrating to Atlantic City and expecting to find some bunch of students sitting around memorizing books. That's not real, right? So if you come to Atlantic City, you got to come willing to start from scratch to build that standard. If you come in thinking the standard's already established, you're going to be sadly heartbroken. It's not like that. So I don't say rush unless you're coming to build. If you're coming to build, ahlan wa sahlan, but you're going to get to work. It's not like you think.
I said the same thing about our community last week during my class. Because a lot of people see what we're doing on the platform, and they're like, oh man, I got to get there. It's happening where y'all at. Then you come, you be like, where's that? We
No,
need
I
people
just
to
got to be
build.
honest because I don't want nobody to sacrifice and then they think they don't got to work. They come in and it's like, mashallah, we're going to sit down, drink coffee and kawa and sit with the sheikhs. And man, no, you come here, you got to work. And then one day, hopefully it's like that. But right now, you got to work, right? So if you ain't really ready to work, I don't have time to sit with you and go over books. I have to pay bills. I have to keep the masjid afloat, right? People say that, like Imam, like I sit around with a salary, big check. It comes in, and I just no. That's not real, right? So I got to be honest with you, right? But if you just want to study, I can hook you up. Probably not going to be in the black community, but I can hook you up. And then once we get ourselves together, you can take that knowledge and come help the black community. But I can hook you up. I got connections.
That's the test of our time period.
And it hurts. It hurts to say that, but it's true.
When I first came to Islam, the Islamic community-minded worker migrated to communities. They migrated to a community for the purpose of putting in work. Now all the workers are spread out.
I'll give you an example, and this is what I'm hoping to see. And we need y'all help with this. Seriously. Like y'all think we just be like corner hustling you, you know what I mean? Uh-oh, you give me access for money. We want to make this stuff a reality, and it costs money to do it. It's real. Like, we're never going to happen if we don't do the money thing. It's not going to happen. Forget about it. That in America, that's a prerequisite for a successful movement. You got to have some money behind it. In America. Now, if we was in Yemen somewhere or in the bush in Africa, we might can get away with it. But in America, no. I'll give you an example.
Why you had to say bush when you said Africa? I'm offended.
They do have bush in Africa.
They got bushes in Yemen too.
I know, but I'm just saying, I was looking at the bush today. I was like, dang, man, that's some hard living. It wasn't in the city. It was outside the city, right? But let me give you an example, right? I'm
sorry I distracted you.
What was I saying? Oh, right.
I forgot.
I just discovered in my city, they're trying to get all the people out. And they're going to make it so you can't live here, right? How did I discover that? The gas prices for gas to your house have doubled, right? So they got a gas fee and a delivery fee, right? Right? So now I'm thinking it's doubled to such an extent that if this continues, many people are going to have to leave their houses because they can't afford their utilities. And that way they get the people out and they take their houses, right? So the bills in the masjid doubled over the last few months, doubled. Luckily, we have a community that probably can sustain it if we work. But even for us, with our community, that's a blow, right? It's a blow, right? Imagine the regular people. So in America, just to operate, you got to have gas, you got to have electric, or they'll come shut you down. So you got expenses, right? So imagine running a full-time school in your building, and students are spending the night and doing qiyam al-layl and learning like a real madrasa, the classical style. That costs money in America. It's not free, right? And then you got to have teachers. And those teachers, they got to have facilities and they got families. All that stuff is real when we talk about raising the standard, if you understand what I mean. So there's many things to it. And And part of that is facilitating so that we can do it. So when we asking our people to help, if we're really serious about what we're talking about, all those things play a role. All right, I'm done. Because I saw the numbers going down once you start talking about money. Right? Whoa, let me get out of here. Hurry up before they hit me. Right now,
Donation. Man, I thought it was the trash.
Okay, any last questions? We went over time like we do, Black Imam Roundtable style. Sheikh Waleed will be proud of us. No, do we have any question? Is there any more questions, Imam Naeem? We miss anything? Or everybody's good?
I'm looking.
So join in tomorrow at 7 o'clock. It's going to be a good one, inshallah.
I don't see no questions.
Wait a minute. I'm just checking. Make sure before we leave them out. Hey, you ever read into the comments before you know what they're saying? It sounds like they're saying something else.
Yeah, that's why I usually have another device open, because like so you can see it may be a response.
Did we ever find out the white and black thing?
That was a part of a thread in here.
Oh, you see, Imam Akil, he realized when I was laying the smack down on Nail, right? No. Oh my goodness. All right, I guess that's it.
I didn't say threat, Yusuf. I said thread. It was a response to someone else's comment.
Oh yeah, we only mention, and I always need to. Did you ever finish the Aqidah series? Aqidah series is never going to be finished until we eliminate, to the best of our abilities, bad creed among our people. So that's never going to go away. We're going to do one series, then another book, then another book. To our people understand that you must be Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, right? We got to keep going. To when the term Ash'ari and Maturidi is standard in every house, we won't stop, right? So as long as we got people, even Sunnis, who are confused, what is Ahl Sunnah, we can't stop. Forget the non-Ahl Sunnah. As long as the Ahl Sunnah people are still confused, we got to keep going, right? So you got Ahl Sunnah people who are Ahl Sunnah and they don't even understand Ahl Sunnah, right? So we got an extra work on our hands, right? So as long as there are people who claim to be Ahl Sunnah and they don't know what Ahl Sunnah is, that's a problem. We still got work to do. So let alone the non-Sunni, we talking about the Sunni. And I know
defining that tomorrow.
Yeah, we're gonna go hard. We're going hard. And I know
are we going to define
like
Ahl Sunnah?
It is what it is, huh?
Are we going to define Ahl Sunnah?
That's right. We ain't holding no punches. I already told Sheikh Abdul Kareem, this is the Black Imams Round Table. We coming hard, and you better come correct.
No, because a lot of people think Ahl Sunnah is the opposite of Shia.
A lot of people think not to be Ash'ari and Maturidi is the standard of Ahl Sunnah. I don't know where they get their definition from. We don't gotta be Ash'ari. We don't gotta be Maturidi. And we don't I'm sorry. I don't know what kind of Sunni books you've been reading, bro. Seriously. But you know what happens? The modern day so-called Sunni, who was really Wahhabi, has influenced the thinking of Ahl Sunnah, right? And I think there's a big problem between understanding, because you know what people think, and I'm going to share this. They think when you say somebody's not Ahl Sunnah, you're calling them a kafir. I think this is a problem. Let me clarify it quickly. When we say someone is not Ahl Sunnah, that doesn't mean they're not a Muslim. No one's saying that. Ahl Sunnah has a definition and a meaning. It has some things that make you Ahl Sunnah and some things that make you not Ahl Sunnah, right? There are sets of beliefs and practices that make you Ahl Sunnah. And there are other beliefs and practices that take you outside of the fold of Ahl Sunnah, right? Do you understand my point? So I think they misunderstand, right? So let me give you these real quick. You have two terms, Ahl Sunnah, just so we can understand. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, right? And then it's opposite, right? I'll just put it like this. It's the opposite of that. Ahlul Bid'ah wal Furqa. Okay? So everyone understands this, right? So when we say Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the people who follow the prophetic way, and they're the majority of the Muslim nation. The opposite of that is not kafirs, right? The opposite of that is Ahlul Bidah, people who have beliefs that are considered vile innovations. Wal Furqa, and they separate it from the Jama'ah, from the majority of the Muslim nation. That's the difference. We didn't say they were kuffar. Is this clear for everyone? Please memorize these terms. Because if you don't understand terms, you're going to confuse. No one said that because a person's not Ash'ari and Maturidi, he's a kafir. No one said that. Right? He could be, but no one said it for sure. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? So when we say Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, we mean something. When we say Ahlul Bidah wal Furqa, we mean something. And when the classic scholars said Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they mean Al-Asha'ira wal Maturidiyya in Aqidah. In fiqh, they mean Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, Hanafi. In spirituality, they mean the people of Tasawwuf. I don't know what's so, well, I know what's confusing about that. A person don't know. Now I'm explaining it to you. Is this thing clear? Please, 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 brothers and sisters. We family, we could talk. Is that clear?
Then on top of that, most of us raised in this environment, the short form of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaat is Sunni. And so we've been tricked into thinking that the opposite Sunni is Shia. That we get sucked into that whole narrative.
Fatima's going into a whole long discussion. Fatima, we promised to read that and come over it so that we could talk about bid'ah. We had that class before, but we'll do it again. But in general, bid'ah, in the technical definition of the term by the scholars, is any newly invented thing that contradicts the foundational principles of the Quran, the Sunnah, and scholarly consensus. That thing is a bid'ah, and it's called a blameworthy bid'ah, right? Al-bid'atu madhmuma. The opposite of that is, in terms of an innovation, the other side of that is a newly invented matter that does not contradict the principles of the Quran, the Sunnah, and scholarly consensus. That is an innovation, but it is a bid'ah that is mahmuda, that is praiseworthy. Do you follow what my point is? So anytime you have a new matter, that new matter is going to be weighed in terms of its compliance with the principles of the Quran, the Sunnah, and scholarly consensus. If it contradicts that, it's considered a blameworthy innovation. If it fits within that scope, it's considered a praiseworthy innovation and is acceptable. So you're going to have two types of al-bid'ah, al-bid'atul hasana and al-bid'atul sayyi'ah, a good bid'ah and a bad bid'ah. That's from one terminology. If you want to get more deep among the scholars of the foundations of Islamic law and the principles of the sacred law, they're going to count bid'ah not two ways, in 5 categories. And an obligatory innovation, bid'ah that is wajibah, a bid'ah that is menduba, that is recommended, a bid'ah that is permissible, a bid'ah that is disliked, and a bid'ah that is unlawful. And this is by the agreement of the scholars of Islamic law. These are with details. Do you understand? And all of our great scholars have classified bid'ah in this way. All we got to do is learn. But we only know Wahhabi material, Salafi nonsense, and that's what's been pushed in our communities. And the classical scholarship is totally devoid of any representation in our communities, unfortunately. And we have to change that. This is not something that is unknown. For instance, if the person says, I follow hadith, I'm going to ask you a quick question. We're just giving you examples. If we want to study what are the 2 main books of hadith that are the most relied upon and the most authentic books of hadith, they are what?
Bukhari and Muslim.
Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, right? Tayyib, right? Now, those books have commentaries. What are the most famous commentaries on Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim?
Fatul Bari and Shahrul Muslim.
Right. Fatul Bari written by who?
Ibn al-Hajar al-Asqalani.
Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Sharh Sahih Muslim written by who?
Imam al-Nawawi.
Do you know Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani and Imam al-Nawawi, when they define bid'ah, they use this same terminology? Both of them. So the great Hufaz, the most famous books of explaining the most authentic books of Islam, told you that bid'ah is under these categories. Then someone else who are far less than them come tell you there's no such thing as a good bid'ah, only all bid'ah is bad. And the same hadith that they use to say all bid'ah are bad, all bid'ah is bad, the great scholars explain them in those categories. It's nonsense. The problem is they don't let us read. That's it. Hide the books. Don't let them read. Give them some shiny pamphlets, and that's all those Negroes need.
And we cool not reading.
Yeah, that's it. That's the game. Let's just give them this, give them our rhetoric, and just send them on their way. And they are our permanent slaves. This is real stuff. We've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, led astray. We got to fix it. We got to fight back. So all these guys who say, this guy, man, he's always, we got to fight back. We got to intellectually, academically, scholarly fight back. We can't accept it. I ain't talking about physical fighting. We can't do that with our people. We cannot hurt Black people, period. We went through enough pain. So we ain't talking about physical, but intellectually, academically, scholarly, we have to raise the standard among our people. We must do that. I mean, they know listen. Not all of the innovations of those people are an accident. They got a mission. We just don't know their mission. Let me explain something to you. These puppets that studied over Saudi Arabia and learned their curriculum, these are the official house Negroes that we used to have in the Black community. I don't know another way to say it to you. In the Black community, we knew house Negroes who went to school and were good old boys. We knew this in our communities, and they always have been people who betrayed their people for master. We changed the white man to the Saudi, and they became our masters. And they trained some Negroes and sent them back in our communities to put us in place. Same stuff. I hate to say it. No, I don't. That's not true. I do. I'm a Nat Turner Negro, right? Nat Turner Negro. Yeah, you a puppet, man. You know it and I know it.
Hey,
Now, wait a minute. If I say that, I'm offensive. I'm rude. I'm
you uppity.
a jerk. I'm blah 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 blah
You
blah.
getting kind of uppity over there, the old school term.
Yeah, but I should just let them come and deceive us. And I know better, and they know better. Because you don't know better, remain silent so you can stay a victim. No. And this is all in the books. This ain't like some stuff that I'm making up. All you gotta do is open up the books. They're right there. They're right there. They're right there. And guess what? Not only the Salafis are doing it to us. Unfortunately, even the Sunnis who are Ahl Sunnah treat black people the same way. Yeah, it hurts. I watch what they give their people and I watch what they give us. Sometimes knowing things will really break your false perceptions, right? Like, wait a minute. This is what you give your people, but when it comes to us, for you, this summary, that's it. For us, the whole Islamic library. For
Give
you,
give them fried. They like fried.
you remember that? You remember that we used to be on the cartoons? One for you, two for me. One for you, three for me. One for you, four for me.
Nah, it was one for me, one for you. 1, 2 for me, 2 for you. 1, 2, 3 for me, 3 for you.
Sorry, man. It's not funny. It's sad, but so you don't cry. Sometimes you just laugh. Because it's sad, and it's the same thing Mr. Charlie did to us.
And that's a proof. And this is why I love Surah Al-Qasas and the other stories and other surahs that mention what Fir'aun did. He targeted them as a people. And we trying to pretend, oh, it ain't got nothing to do with us as a people. And Surah 40 is a Uqtulu abna aladina amanu ma'ahum. Kill the sons of those who believe with him. Right? So it's not only about, you know, it's about us as a people and keeping us uh, away from Deen. I think a lot of people miss that. And so whenever you have a Pharaonic system, whoever is not part of the targeted group always cooperates with Pharaoh to keep the targeted group, Yani Bani Israel, down. So all of these other people who are not explicitly in allegiance with us and helping us, they are working with Pharaoh against us. And that's the sad lesson that the Quran is teaching us that a lot of us are missing. You think, oh, we Muslim. It's all kumbaya. Yeah, we all supposed to be Muslim, and it's supposed to be kumbaya, but we live in a pharaonic system. And in a pharaonic system, you have a targeted group of people at the bottom, you have a people at the top, and everybody in the middle is working with everybody at the top to keep the people at the bottom on the bottom. And a lot of us don't realize
Brother Gary, we already answered that. there are different types of bid'ah in Islam, and some of them praiseworthy, some of them blameworthy. You can say good and bad, and they fall under categories: obligatory innovations, recommended innovations, permissible innovations, dislike innovations, and unlawful innovations. In summary. All right, y'all want to close us out? We did our 2 hours. Show Sheikh Waleed how the black imams do it. We come late and end late as well.
Man, we done messed this whole platform up, man. We done disembarrassed our teachers, man.
Fatima, yeah, it must be something special. Again, if you go back to the story of Fir'aun, it's not mentioned explicitly in the Quran, but it's mentioned in the books of the stories of the prophets that Fir'aun had a dream, and it was a man from Beni Israel that was destroying the homes and everything like that. That dream was interpreted for him to mean that a boy from Beni Israel was going to basically lead a revolution and uprising and take over, you know, Egypt from the Egyptians. And so the whole purpose for setting up that oppressive system was to prevent that. And if you read that the ayat in Surah Al-Qasas, that in spite of that, Allah made it happen anyway. And so because this is a Pharaonic system, they're not doing this because they're not worrying about us. They're doing this because they are worried about us. And so, yes, it is something special about us.
Hey, Imam Naeem,
Mm.
I got to share something with you offline, but I'm going to give an indication publicly. I just found a touchdown play. Every time we run this play, we're going to score. Right? Somebody, some famous person we know, was posting manuscripts. It was a hujjah for us. I was like, Allahu Akbar, right? So they put the manuscript. So I read the manuscript. It's in Arabic from Timbuktu, from the Shehu, in Aqidah, in a private library of Timbuktu. The imams from a masjid in Timbuktu.
Gotcha.
About the Shehu in Aqidah, which was a handwritten creed from Imam Shafi'i's Shafi'i scholars who were Ash'ari, who the Shehu was had in their teachings, that was in a private library, not published.
Allahu Akbar.
And it's mentioned in the tabaqat of Tajuddin Subki. I was like, and I was like, wow, what a discovery, right? And it was written by one of those African scholars. I said, touchdown. For anyone who want to say that he was Athari, this creed nullifies it. Allahu Akbar. I think I even copied it. I don't know if I did, but I think I did. Because you know those manuscripts are hard to read, right? So most person, I thought I copied it. I might not have. I might not have been able to. Let me see if I can find that joint. I'm going to send it to you if I can find it.
Okay.
Got it. Man, that's nice. Look at it, Imam Naeem. That's the manuscript.
We can see. Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna send it to you, but that's
Okay.
the manuscript.
Alhamdulillah.
And any doubts about the Aqidah of the Shehu and what he believed, that'll remove it all right there. That joint is so explicit. I said, Subhanallah.
Yes, sir, Farouk. Farouk.
Farouk,
He said you can read Maghribi script, Imam. I mean, or yes, it's actually easy.
yeah. All you gotta do is sit under Imam Naim for a couple weeks. You can read anything. He's a genius.
Not even that.
But that goes into our notes for that stuff we got coming up. It was so strong. It lets you know the Aqidah of the people of Timbuktu and what they believed. So that goes way back to show you what the Africans, they were in Timbuktu, and they were Ashari. No doubt about it. So all that Athari stuff, nah. Nope. That wasn't their approach.
I always say if they'll lie about Allah, they'll lie about anything else. They'll rewrite history in a minute.
It was a beautiful discovery. I was like, wow. And then when you trace the asanid and the chains and you examine, it's like, mashallah. It's like slam dunk. Okay. What about us and our ego prevents us from raising the standard as Muslims? First of all, I think really, if I be fair, in my opinion, I don't think it's all ego. I think sometimes we just don't know the standard, like Imam Naim said. And people, they hid it from us. So we didn't even have a standard to rise to, right? From the door. And I've been studying this. That's why I talk about the work of Akil Fahd is so important, because we'll see that we had shots at the opportunity to learn, but they blocked us. Always some stuff, right? Always some stuff. And that's why it's important for us to study and to learn and to bring out the best of what we have. And everyone has to work on that, right? Like I look at us, and even I say in my family, it's something that we did. All of us struggled. Some didn't graduate from high school, some of us. All of our kids, college, careers, good positions, because we did better. And we made sure our children do better, right? And that's the same thing we got to do in the Deen. We got to stop the decline of our education and our social development. So I don't think it's all ego. Sometimes it is, but I don't think it's most. I think it's access. Access denied for Black people, and we got to change that. Whoever kicks in the door, got to let everybody else in. If you get through, you got to pull others. You can't get in and say, I'm straight, and you niggas figure it out. I'm sorry for right. We can't be like that. Excuse for the explicit words, but we can't be like that. I'm straight. Love, I'm not straight. And if all of us ain't straight, I'm still in the struggle. Even if I made it through, I got to pull all of us through. And that process can't stop until our people is free. Sorry, we talk like Black imams and deal with our own reality. Sorry for the N-word, but you know when we ain't on camera, you know how it goes sometimes.
Answering Talib's question, I'm not too familiar with the works of Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba. I was actually. It's funny that you said that, because on my desk I was just looking at a few lines of his famous book Masalik al-Janan.
I'm always messing with him.
This style of Maghribi script, I'm not used to reading it, so it's a little bit harder for me to read this one. It's a poem. I was reading a part where he was talking about what we would call haters, uh, and the hasud, that people who have jealousy, and it says that they won't be able, they won't follow anything or support anything, and in fact, they if they find out that you died, they will be happy about it. But this style of Maghribi script, this is a photocopy of Umdatu Bayan, the book we do every day. And that's the section on Aikido, the Sam'iyat, right? It's easy for me to read that style of Maghribi. It's just the handwriting, but it's very easy. Uh, but to answer your question, I recommend you start where everyone else starts, Al Akhdari, and then maybe like a sister on the same level, the Ashmawiya, and then build up from that.
If I can jump in, because I'm semi Maliki, right? And I have Maliki teachers. I would suggest, in addition, if you wanted to study your African curriculum, and that's fine, but also study the standard books of the Maliki school that are well known. So if you want a tartib, a sequence, and this is what they mentioned, right? You can study, right? Akhdari, right? Then you can study the Metan of Ibn Ashir, the poem. Then you can go to the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd. And then you can go to the Muqtasar of Al-Khalil, right? Muqtasar al-Khalil, right? I'm talking about a stream way, right? Stream, right? Everything else, you can just add on to that. But if you just took that as a straight level, which would be years of study, right? You'll have a foundational principle. No matter where you go in the world, in Maliki school, it's accepted, right? If you took that curriculum, no one anywhere in the world is going to challenge you if you master that. And I would suggest one thing for us as a standard: memorize all of those books. Memorize them. So when you talk about Al-Akhdari, memorize it. When you go to Ibn Ashir, memorize it. The Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd, memorize it. The Mukhtasar al-Khalil, memorize it. If you do that and you make that a standard in your family, in your communities, where everyone who's striving to learn is like that, we're going to come to a whole nother level as a people. That's in Maliki school. If you want to streamline it in the Shafi'i school, you can take smaller books like Risalat al-Jamia or Safinat al-Najah or Al-Muqaddimat al-Hadramiya, right? Then you can move to Metan Abi Shuja', you can move to Imdat al-Salik, then you could go to Al-Minhaj, same type of short curriculum. If you memorized all that and we made that standard in our communities, same thing in Hanafi fiqh, Nur al-Ida, Maraqi al-Falah, Muqtasar al-Quduri, right? And up to Al-Ikhtiyar, and then all the way up to the major books. The same thing. If we did that and that was standard in all of our communities, then you have a standard in hadith studies, in usul al-fiqh studies, in studies of seerah, in studies of al-aqidah. Anywhere you go in the world, you're safe. No matter where you go. Even if they got their own local curriculum by their local scholars, it doesn't go outside of that. You follow my point? We have to raise the bar. That's it.
Yeah, the books, Sister Fatima, are these Maliki books translated? Shameless plug. The Akhdari, we translated. This is our translation. You can find that on our
And you
website.
should put it up. Everyone should have it.
Samira, where you at? Put the link up. You there?
Put the link. Everyone should have it. We got to, if we listen.
Arabic, English is all here.
That's right. And you're supporting a black masjid who's struggling. Joking, right? No, we got to do it seriously. Murshid Ma'in is Ibn Asakir. I mean Ibn Ashir.
Ibn
Excuse
Ashir.
me, Ibn Ashir.
I think then
And
the
there are
Abdullah
various
bin
explanations.
Hamid.
We're talking about just the poem itself. Metin Ibn Ashir. That's Murshid Ma'in. And if you tired of Imam Naeem dancing in your video, just come on over to Shafi'i Fiqh.
Samira put the link up for the.
Okay, let's put the link. So if you want to get that book in the Maliki Fiqh in its beginning stage, join. Let's change the narrative in our communities. One community at a time, group by group, let's change the narrative, right? Let's show what we can do as a people. We are a great people. We've done great things in the past, and we can do great things in the present and better things in the future. We got to stick together. That's it. If we stick together and we have a sense of dignity among ourselves and honor, man, we could go long ways. We could do it. Don't let nobody tell us we can't. Okay, we got to stop. For I'm acting tough, but you know who's waiting.
Plus, we might catch a right cross from Imam Fahim.
Yeah, I know you're talking about we don't hurt black people, but I go upside your head, man.
Yes, sir. Call it. Same page, right next to each other.
All right, who's going to close us out? We went way overboard.
It's your fault, Imam. I mean,
Yeah, you close us out. Clean it up.
Please send us blessings from the earth. بيصير الأسرار الفاتحة. بارك الله فيكم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum. We'll see y'all tomorrow morning and then tomorrow night at 7. Please spread it, the Black Imams Roundtable, because it's going to be a very interesting discussion with Sheikh Abdul Karim Yahya about re-evaluating Sunni Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.